Alright, so let's talk about Sudan. I'm going to give a very brief rundown of how the genocide started, why it started, who's involved, etc. So this starts with a group called the Janjaweed. The Janjaweed were a rebel militia group that was comprised predominantly of Arab supremacists, and they operated predominantly under the Darfur region. They formed in the late 80s and spent the 90s trying to gain and control territory in Sudan. And in the early 2000s, there were conflicts over farming land and threats of insurgency. The threats of insurgency were against the Sudanese government by two groups, the Sudan Liberation Movement and the Justice and Equality Movement. These groups were fighting primarily for equal rights and governmental reform. And in 2003, these two groups officially led a rebellion against the Sudanese government. The Sudanese government responded by sending in the Janjaweed group and their own military to stop the rebellion. This resulted in the Darfur War, which resulted in between 200 and 400,000 civilian casualties and millions of people displaced. And the Sudanese government, along with Janjaweed, were accused of committing ethnic cleansing in this region. And the UN reported that at least 300,000 people were killed by the Sudanese government and the Janjaweed through combat, starvation, and disease. In 2013, the Sudanese government officially restructured the Janjaweed as a paramilitary organization and renamed it the Rapid Support Forces. Basically, they became a mercenary group for the Sudanese government. In 2019, the SAF, which is the Sudanese Armed Forces, that's their official military, the SAF and the RSF together had a military coup to overthrow the Sudanese government. During this, they killed, raped, abducted, and pillaged the homes of anyone who protested. So at this point, the military has taken control of the government. In 2023, the RSF was supposed to be merged into the official Sudanese military. However, there was a power struggle between the commander of the SAF, who was acting as the de facto leader of the nation, and the leader of the RSF. This power struggle caused battles between the RSF and the SAF to break out all across the nation. Within the first 2 days, 78 people were killed, including 3 workers for the World Food Program. This caused the World Food Program to suspend all their work in Sudan, which has only exacerbated the starvation crisis that they're facing. They're calling this a civil war, but in reality, it's just a genocide of the Sudanese people. Since this war started, there has been mass murder of civilians, systemic use of sexual violence, deliberate starvation, pillaging and burning of homes, hospitals, and religious buildings, mass displacement, and forced recruitment. And while acts of genocide have been committed by the SAF, most of these acts of genocide are being committed by the RSF, especially in terms of mass execution and systemic use of sexual violence. And the RSF are committing the most severe acts of sexual violence anywhere in the world, such as child and infant rape, gang rape, and using sharp metal objects inside of people's orifices, causing them to bleed to death. So who's complicit and what's in it for them? Obviously, the RSF is the primary perpetuator. They're the ones doing most of the killing, most of the raping, most of the pillaging and burning, most of the abductions. They're doing most of it. However, the SAF is not innocent in this either. For the RSF and the SAF alike, this is all about territory. That's all it's about. They are slaughtering and raping countless civilians because they want to have control over the nation. Other nations that are complicit are the UAE, the US, and China. The US's complicity is specifically funding the UAE. The UAE are funding the RSF in exchange for access to their gold. If you don't know, the UAE's primary export is gold. However, they don't have a single gold mine in their nation. All of their gold is blood gold that comes from Sudan. As for China, they're the ones that are actually arming the RSF and arming the SAF. They're arming both sides. Even though China has made a public statement saying that they do not support the RSF, they are still selling them weapons. And the director of the Confluence Advisory think tank, Khalud Kher, I apologize if I mispronounced that, has said they're still exporting to both sides because both sides are still paying. We have to separate China's political posture from its participation in the global war economy where profits often override principle. Someone once asked me why there are so many anarchist people in Sudan. It's because even before this genocide started, Sudan has had a long history of governmental oppression. And I still have the letter written by the Sudanese anarchists after al-Fashir fell pinned to the top of my profile. It'll probably stay pinned for a while. But it is a message to all the socialists and anarchists in the world about standing in solidarity with the people of Sudan. As always, we're not free until we're all free. That includes the people of Sudan. And revolution is the only solution. Peace.